So if you've been on the channel, then you know we began my culture series, basically learning about the culture, the accents, the people, the stories of everyone in England. And it's been about a month since we began the culture series, and we've decided to transition now into Ireland and learn Irish history, but I guess we've also been learning Scottish history too. In the last Troubles video, we basically learned the history of Irish people and the relationship they've had with English rule. We kind of got to see an inner conflict with Irish people where they identify with Englishness but also being an Irish person as well. I'm trying to choose my words very carefully because I don't want to offend someone, because I know, as a lot of the comments said, there's no way you can actually understand decades of history by reacting to a few videos on YouTube. But, I mean, I'm an American girl, this is what I got. Yeah, we can go to Google and look up and research, but it'll be hard for me to turn that into content for you guys to watch and come along on the process with me. So that's why I'm doing these videos. So that was just a message to the naysayers or people who don't want me to do this series, I guess. I enjoy it, so I'm gonna do it anyway, but all that being said, here we go into episode 2 of The Troubles. If you haven't seen episode 1, I advise you probably watch that because you won't know what we're talking about in this episode or where we left off. If you have any other video suggestions or requests, make sure you head over to Instagram and DM them to me over there, or tweet them at me. All my handles are up here. I can't get through every single comment on the channel, so if you have a video you want me to see, it's best you DM it to me. Like this video so I know you enjoyed and you want me to continue doing the culture series. Subscribe to the second channel too. I'm going to be uploading more vlogs and stuff over there, so check that out too if you want to see a bigger part of me personality. That was my attempt at an Irish accent. Enough talking! Let's get right into The Troubles Part 2.
Hello and welcome to the rest of the video, featuring the rest of the video.
I love his sarcasm.
The civil rights movement disappeared alongside any kind of moderate party, as many new volunteers flocked to join the IRA.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay, I was like, what do you mean the civil rights movement? He's not talking about American civil rights, he's talking about European civil rights. So again, in the last video I also mentioned how American history is very similar, or our histories basically, the founding of our countries, the relationship the civilians and citizens have had with the government is very similar in all the wrong ways, the bad ways.
1972 would be the bloodiest year in the conflict, and the worst for the British Army since the Korean War. The IRA sought reprisal,
oh my god,
and would respond with a series of 22 car bombings around Belfast, killing 9 people, soldiers, police, and civilians included.
Okay, that's not even like killing police, civilians, just anyone in the proximity. What was the goal there? Just to do it? Who did that?
The IRA sought reprisal, and would respond with a series of 22 car bombings around Belfast,
the IRA?
Killing 9 people, soldiers, police, and civilians included. The army would react with 58 arrests and raids for bomb equipment, leading to 1 IRA death. Loyalist paramilitaries would begin to set up checkpoints to overwatch their streets and look out for IRA members, leading to more violence and deaths. Over the course of the unrest, many similar no-go areas had cropped up. They relied on the protection of their paramilitaries and barricades and rejected civil authority. The government decided...
So, like, the people gated off parts of the community or country, and they allowed Irish people in, or they did not allow Irish loyalists in? Because, from my understanding, Northern Irish people identify as British, and the people from the southern area, aka the Republic of Ireland, identify as Irish. And I see that they have an Irish flag, so I'm guessing it's, if you're a part of the northern area, you're not allowed in this area, since you're a loyalist.
Those had to go, deeming them as a catalyst of crime. Operation Motorman would involve 27,000 soldiers alongside armoured vehicles and even a tank. They'd storm the no-go areas and destroy barricades, taking them by force and fear. There were a couple of deaths, and after the operation, 3 more car bombs would be detonated. The IRA, however, did not claim them. The mission had seemed to...
I know I keep pausing and I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop. But this is making me, one, appreciate, though America is a trash can and a Gucci belt, I'm glad to be here. Like, I have a lot of privilege. This is making me realize how much privilege and how lucky I am, I guess, to have never had to experience a life of war on my own homeland.
Contained the insurgent behaviour, but it was in 1973 that those assumptions would be negated. An IRA bombing in London killed 1 and injured hundreds. The suspects would be arrested and tried, but an attack so close to home shocked many in the government. The conflict, alongside a deteriorating domestic situation, saw Anglo-Irish relations damaged, specifically about the British Army's handling of events. The Sunningdale Agreement in 1974 looked to permit the Irish government an advisory role in Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland's parliament to be disbanded and reformed in attempts to have power shared equally between nationalists and loyalists. Many loyalists disapproved of this, seeing it as giving in to the IRA's terror tactics. Political and paramilitary elements came together in the Ulster Workers' Council strike in May.
I can't help but, again, this is just me looking from an outside perspective. Take my opinion with a grain of salt. This all just seems like a foreign party mediating a situation they shouldn't be involved in the first place. Like, the English basically, you be nice, y'all figure it out. Here you go. And then the Northern Ireland being like, no, I don't want to share. It's like, I hate to use the word childish because lives were lost over this, but I feel like there could have been, before 1972, there could have been a resolution. Ugh.
1974. Paramilitaries would make sure that the workers did not go to work, whether they wanted to or not, leading to Northern Ireland's industry being brought to a grinding halt. 34 people would be killed in the Republic of Ireland by loyalist bombings, and by the time the strike finally ended, the agreement collapsed. The loyalist paramilitaries had achieved a victory through terror. Somewhat later the same year, the IRA would target England again, bombing the cities of Guildford and Birmingham, killing 5 and 21. These bombings caused anti-Irish sentiment in the afflicted areas, Irish people being
So the IRA started off as, from the episode 1 that we saw, the biggest part of the IRA that stood out to me was basically around the time that we heard the stories of the women and children throwing rocks at the British soldiers. And that's when, like, a sort of, I don't want to call them a rebel cause because that makes it sound like they're a negative, and I don't necessarily think both sides had motives for forming whatever they did and doing whatever they did. But basically the reason the IRA was created was because the Republic of Ireland didn't have much representation or a set group of people to stand up against British soldiers or Northern Ireland. So, in a way, I feel like they've lost okay, let's not even get into it.
And their businesses targeted. Reprisal killings would also be suffered back in Northern Ireland, leading to the IRA deeming such attacks to be off limits. There would also be some serious abuses of power in England, as police arrested several Irish people that were forced into making false confessions, leading to 17 people being wrongly incarcerated. Back-channel negotiations...
It's backfiring, basically. The IRA, you are not doing what you were supposed to be doing. You're in...
The British government and Republican leadership would finally be able to barter an IRA ceasefire in late 1974. This, though, did not stop tit-for-tat sectarian killings between nationalists and loyalists. The division in Northern Irish society was stronger than ever, and hatred ruled many incidents. Through the course of the ceasefire, a few loyalists feared that the government may lose interest, abandon them, leading to them attempting to provoke the IRA into breaking the ceasefire, and the IRA...
What the heck? Come on! Oh no. When race and nationality conflict, this is what happens. So sad.
The ceasefire had all but collapsed in late 1975. In January 1976, members of the Loyalist Ulster Volunteer Force attacked 2 Catholic families, killing 6 in what had been a part of a larger series of attacks on Catholics. The IRA would retaliate with the Kingsmill Massacre, where they halted a van and gunned down 10 Protestants, sparing the Catholic that rode with them.
My God. This is like gang killing in America. Like, you killed my partner, so I'm going to kill your partner, and the cycle never ends. An eye for an eye, like they always say, just ends up with everyone blind. Someone has to stop. So let's see if anyone did.
Massacre would be the climax of the tit-for-tat killings, causing the string of murders to halt for some while. By 1979, the British Army had become quite effective in handling the IRA, though this only caused the IRA to become increasingly observant and inventive. They'd execute an extensively planned-out guerrilla attack on the army in the Warren Point ambush, bombing both a British convoy and the ensuing reinforcements, killing 18 soldiers, and not losing a single of their own. The army was...
Again, okay, I don't stand by what the IRA is doing, and I don't stand by what the British Army is doing either. But considering the IRA are just a bunch of lads from Ireland going up against a whole military force, I guess I'm surprised they're able to basically go against them, basically.
Forced to rework their methods, becoming increasingly reliant on helicopters instead. This change offered the IRA virtual control of the south of County Armagh, swiftly turning it into bandit country. One of the more significant consequences of the struggle between the army and paramilitaries was the influx of many new prisoners and its taxing effects on the justice system. Initially, paramilitary prisoners were given special category status, which treated them akin to POWs. However, after 1976, they'd been downgraded to being treated as usual criminals. Their own clothes were taken and they would be given prison clothes. They refused in the blanket protest, wearing blankets instead of the provided garb. Later, they would refuse to leave their cells, reporting abuses from the guards, and this would escalate to the dirty protest, as they smeared excrement across the walls of their cells. In 1980,
What the heck? Okay, this part of history... So, you go against the British Army, you get caught, and as retaliation, you walk around in blankets and put poop on the walls. But then again, they did say they were getting abused. But this is kind of like the situation with throwing rocks at armed guards.
Start in hopes of returning their special status. The strike was called off
Special
when it seemed
status?
the government would concede. The following year, though, the government had not, leading to a second hunger strike led by Bobby Sands. The Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, was firm in her stance that she would not offer concessions to those on strike. She would not acknowledge them as political prisoners, but only as criminals. While on strike and in prison, Bobby Sands was able to win the position of MP in the British Parliament, and this gave hope to some that a settlement would be reached. Thatcher.
Do any of you know any of the IRA, or are any of your ancestors a part of the IRA or the British Army who had this conflict with each other? Do you have any stories to share in the comments? Because I'd be interested to read them. Because, like, obviously we know this all happened and they're giving timestamps and dates, but it's kind of just like, it doesn't sound like it could be real. Tit-for-tat killings, bombings in the street of your city. Let me know if you have any personal stories that go along with this.
Continued to refuse compromise. Sands would die on the 66th day of the hunger strike in May. In total, 10 strikers would die. It prompted riots and protests in Northern Ireland and beyond.
Okay. A hunger strike. Well, I don't see the logic behind that. So you're gonna not eat food, hoping that you'll get your privileges back. If I were the Prime Minister, I would honestly not... I would do what she did. You are a prisoner, you did attack and kill so many people, and now you're trying to starve yourself in a protest. What?
The political wing of the IRA, Sinn Féin, would begin to receive new gained support, and the IRA itself saw a flux of volunteers, wishing to correct this perceived injustice.
Woo-hoo-hoo! Oh, man.
With the Irish Republican Gerry Adams' direction in the aftermath of the hunger strike, Sinn Féin would enter the Northern Ireland Assembly for the first time.
I like the song.
Though still well behind in seats of the also Unionist Party and even the staunchly loyalist Ian Paisley's Democratic Unionist Party, it sent a scary message to Thatcher. It discredited the British policy that the IRA acted with no support and had no place in politics. On a less than legal note, the IRA had...
But didn't they just say in 1973 they did give representation to Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland? And now the Prime Minister is going back and saying they have no political standing? Okay, maybe I don't agree with Miss Thatcher. I feel like she's ready to acknowledge conflict head on, basically.
and had no place in politics. On a less than legal note, the IRA had placed the blame for the strikers' deaths solely at the feet of Thatcher herself, and saw the need for revenge.
Oh,
In
no.
1984, they'd bombed the Grand Hotel in Brighton in attempts to assassinate Thatcher and her parliament.
Oh my gosh. I knew that was coming, but oh man. Y'all really bombed a whole hotel for one person, and it doesn't sound like they actually even got her. Oh man. This is still the tit for tat. Nothing has changed.
In 1984, they'd bombed the Grand Hotel in Brighton in attempts to assassinate Thatcher and her parliament, killing 5 people, but not Thatcher. This attack would begin to start reflecting the IRA as less of a simple paramilitary in Northern Ireland, but instead as a highly dangerous terrorist organization.
That's what I was about to say. You have gone from protecting your people to now just being a terrorist organization, trying to kill the Prime Minister of Britain. That's not protecting your people anymore. That's just straight up being a terrorist. Like, put it in perspective for me. By all means, I don't like Trump at all. In fact, I don't want him to win the next election. But do I wish someone to come in and, one, threaten American safety? Potentially destroy our democracy by assassinating him? If Donald Trump were to die today, he would go down as a martyr, which he is not. But also, our government, America is already in shambles. But if we don't have a leader in the White House, God only knows what would happen to our government system. We all saw what just happened when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. They elected some... Let me get back to the video.
Not to mention it wouldn't be too long before they began receiving some serious armament from, oddly enough, Gaddafi's Libya. 1985.
Libya? What was the original goal from episode 1 for the Republic of Ireland? It went from them wanting to be one country with Northern Ireland to them just wanting representation. And now about a decade has passed, a little over a decade, and now they're receiving weapons from Libya. Again, I'm trying not to give my opinion on y'all's history. This is all just about me learning. But it's kind of hard to agree with someone wanting, what do you call it? Where you want your own republic, independence. It's hard to support someone wanting their own independence when you have to go to these lengths. Not even in the in the honor of wanting independence. This is more just vengeance, I feel like. This is just vengeful.
See the highly significant signing of the Anglo-Irish Agreement. Thatcher, despite her own protest, would agree with the Irish Prime Minister, Garret Fitzgerald, to see Ireland brought into an advisory role in Northern Ireland. This agreement was to see cross-border political, security and legal cooperation between the two countries.
So now, England has voice in Northern Ireland, and the Republic of Ireland has voice in Northern Ireland. So the Northern Ireland is just like stuck in the middle here, which is even, in my opinion, worse. Because you have two political heads that don't agree with each other now governing you or voicing their opinions about you.
Promoted. Despite how good it may sound, it was opposed by both
This is a long video.
seeing it as doing too much, and nationalists, seeing it as doing too little. These political concessions and attempts to strengthen constitutional politics was all done in attempts to undermine the IRA. But the Republicans' campaign of terror continued. Attacks occurred against isolated army and police barracks, significantly damaging morale of troops, who would only see recompense when they were able to turn the tables and ambush the IRA members in 1987, killing 8 of the men responsible for the attacks. Later the same year, during Remembrance Day, the IRA bombed a war memorial used for ceremony. They killed 12 people and injured dozens, many of them being simply old-age pensioners. This attack would shake the IRA to its core, as the backlash was immense. Loyalists would seek revenge in blood, of course, but Sinn Féin's vote would utterly collapse, not recovering for 14 years. The IRA, however, still continued its armed campaign against the British Army. In 1989, overrunning a well-fortified checkpoint and killing 2 soldiers. They'd also once again seek to attack the Prime Minister.
So what was the goal? Do you just want to destroy the British Army? When does it end? Okay, you infiltrated one barricaded area. Cool. How far are you gonna go? Are you trying to take over Britain? What?
I'm being John Major. With the increasing reliance of their improvised mortars, they'd commence an attack on 10 Downing Street in February 1991. The rounds would miss, but the attack still startled the government. Alongside this campaign against the British Army and government, they'd also become tougher on loyalist paramilitaries, assassinating their members. They'd attempted bombing on their leadership in 1993, but only killed one loyalist alongside their own men and 8 civilians. The failed attack only provoked more Catholic killings by loyalist paramilitary. At this point, after 25 years of constant violence and fear, it seemed endless. But this did not stop efforts to put an end to it. A historic ceasefire would be called in 1994 to allow for negotiations, but by 1996 the IRA was seriously doubting any progress to be made. The British Conservative Party was reliant on loyalist votes, and any concessions to the IRA would be severely unpopular. The IRA would break the ceasefire in February with the bombings on Canary Wharf, killing 2 people, but more importantly to the government, causing significant financial damage.
These motherfuckers can't stick to a friggin' ceasefire. This is like, what, the 3rd one in the last 3 decades that they've broken? I mean, yeah, I understand it's hard to trust the British government, but you're killing people. Innocent people, really. Just because they're Protestant or Catholic. Just because they identify as English or Irish. Humans. Stupid. Humans are very dumb.
To replicate attacks on the government's wallet, detonating 1,600 kilos of explosive in Manchester's centre.
Oh, Manchester!
No one, but causing much damage and the evacuation of 75,000 people. The bombing had an effect on their general election in 1997, leading to Tony Blair's Labour Party coming into power. The new government saw new talks.
So Thatcher was no longer the Prime Minister? Is that what that means? The Labour Party? So we have Republicans and Democrats over here. What is y'all's? I hear you sometimes talking in my comments about Green Party. I think we have that too, but I'm not too sure what it is. Again, our main 2 focuses, the ones that always gain power, whether it be presidential, locally, in the Senate, Congress, or anything like that, you're either a Republican or a Democrat. At least for the majority. So is that the same for y'all?
Not without complications.
I know y'all are a republic and we're a democracy.
Over a dispute to the loyalist Orange Order Parade seeking to move through a nationalist area. The government would allow the parade to go on, causing the worst rioting since the riots caused by the hunger strike in 1981. In spite of that incident, negotiations held, leading to the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. Northern Ireland's government was shifted to focus on power sharing. The Royal Ulster Constabulary would be watched by an independent commission to check for bias, eventually leading to the RUC being rebranded to the Police Service of Northern Ireland and restructured. And if the day were to come that the majority of people in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland wished to unify, the British government would have it be done. Alongside these important changes, paramilitary weaponry would be decommissioned and many prisoners released. After 30 years of torment and over 3,500 deaths, peace was now tangible.
That's
of course,
true.
the Good Friday Agreement didn't just come...
I like that. Making peace is harder than making war, which is extremely true. Obviously.
Flawlessly. It was passed by referendum, with 94% approval in the Republic of Ireland, but only 71% in Northern Ireland. Some loyalists felt cheated, and so too did some nationalists. In August 1998, a splinter group of the IRA would bomb the town of Omagh, killing 29. However, it did not break peace. The provisional IRA for the most part would lay down its arms and disband. Despite on the face of it still being active, they are a shadow. The change that had so rapidly happened was really showcased in 2007, when a radically loyalist Ian Paisley held position as First Minister, with his Deputy First Minister, a former IRA member and the Sinn Féin leader, Martin McGuinness. McGuinness would also be awarded an audience and even attend banquet with the Queen.
The Queen?
That, from being not too long ago an enemy of the state, well, it's a bit surprising.
Okay, I'm gonna end the video there. But I kind of like that. So you have a loyalist from... Hold on. So you have a loyalist from Northern England having a guy on his team from the Republic of Ireland. Not Northern England, Northern Ireland. So it's kind of just like... the peace treaty did stand. And I know he talked about how someone did do an attack again in like 2007, trying to restart the war and end the ceasefire. But luckily, I guess Britain didn't respond to it. In the last episode, part 1 of this video, we saw how basically Britain were the bad guys. But now I think in this episode, or this part of history, the IRA switched to the bad guys. Y'all let me know your perspective. Again, I'm just an American girl. I don't really have any ground to stand on this. I'm just voicing my opinion based on these videos we've seen. If there's little details that I missed or that haven't been talked about that would sway my opinion, or that you think is crucial to understanding the history of the Troubles, comment it down below, or DM it to me on Instagram. Wow, this was a lot to take in, and I'm sorry that so many people had to die over, in my opinion, nonsense. It would be interesting to see how the cities were rebuilt after all the bombings and everything. I did hear that Manchester got bombed, which Manchester, whenever I visited, and even now, aside from London, is one of the biggest names that I remember. Isn't Manchester like where, what is it called? The place where the Queen goes to do her work and stuff. If you watched my trip to the UK episode 1 on the second channel, then you know what building I'm talking about. The one with the golden gates? Whatever. Subscribe if you're new here, like this video. Again, if you haven't seen part 1, go watch that. You'll be able to understand this video a bit more. And yeah, let me know what other videos you guys want me to see. What part of history should we check out next? Love ya! Thanks for getting 50K on the channel! Woohoo! Bye!